Are you using a fart machine or is it actually your farts?
I'm
No,
gonna let you decide.
he's
I
just
mean,
holding his ass up to the microphone.
did you hear him afterwards? He went, ugh.
That's how people get pink
So-
eye.
Wait. All right, I'm ready.
Jesus Christ.
Broke his shit, broke his shit, broke his shit, I broke his shit, broke his shit, broke his shit, broke his shit, I broke his shit, broke his shit, broke his shit, broke his shit, I broke his shit, broke his shit, broke his shit, broke his shit, I broke his shit.
All right, Elijah, what's the deal with
There's worse
Barstool?
things in the world than
Alright.
myself.
All right, what's the deal with Barstool Sports? Am I right?
What is the deal with Barstool? You had some beef with them, didn't you?
Oh boy.
Boy, oh boy.
I'm just gonna
So-
say.
Is that?
I'm
is
just
that-
gonna say this. I've been a fan of Barstool for the last 3 or 4 years or so.
Okay.
See,
It's a real tough look. It's real
I'm-
tough.
Yeah, it's tough for you right now. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I have never really been a big fan of Barstool.
Mother of I.
I genuinely just don't like their content. I think the content they make is like frat boy content. It's very
Agreed.
juvenile.
Agreed.
But they have made some good stuff in the past. I'm also not a big fan of the people that run their companies through Barstool, like a lot of podcasts, which I don't really want to send shots. Yeah, a couple of Barstool podcasts
Go for it.
just
Call them out.
don't really do it for me. All right, you know what? We're gonna
They're
we're
not
call
gonna
them out.
fucking hear, so like,
We're gonna
go ahead.
we're gonna call it out. All right, call me daddy, or call her daddy. Call her daddy. The concept of it, I get it. It's hilarious, but the actual content that they talk about on that podcast is the most toxic shit I've ever heard in my entire life.
It's
Well,
definitely
you just-
yeah.
Well, you just said it. You just said what the content's for.
Well,
That
that's what I'm
it's frat
saying.
boy and juvenile.
Well, that's why I'm saying. That's why this is just me reaffirming that I don't like Barstool because of the
Right.
content they make.
Right.
Because, so for instance, Call Her Daddy, extremely juvenile, extremely immature content, just super out there.
I wanted to call it like toxic femininity, but I wouldn't even. I don't
wouldn't
want to
even-
associate their podcast with
They're not even. Yeah, I
with
wouldn't
like
even classify
I guess
them
like a
as-
feminist movement or anything. I just think that they're two toxic females
Yeah.
that their gender doesn't have anything to do with their toxicity, so I wouldn't necessarily call it toxic femininity. but they
don't
definitely
do
use.
anything-
Sorry,
They
go
don't
on.
do anything to progress women's rights at all. They don't talk about real issues. They don't talk about injustices. They talk about your boyfriend cheating on you and why you should cheat on
Well,
him first.
That being said, does everything have to talk about? Does everything has to solve the problem?
It doesn't have to solve a problem.
That's a
but
good
you also
point,
don't
Joe.
Make them, you know.
I think that if
You
they're
don't
making
make
that shit
problems.
content for people that enjoy that shit content, good for that. As long as they
Yeah.
themselves recognize that it's shit content.
I guess, yeah. I guess for me, the biggest part that frustrates me is when you're on a platform like that and you have so many listeners.
Mhm.
I know not everything has to be serious, not everything has to mean something, but I don't know. I just feel like when you have that level of platform, it's almost irresponsible to not do something with it.
That's true.
Something good.
That's true.
But-
I mean, is there an instance that you can think of in recent times where you were upset with a specific time, or?
Well, for Barstool, it was this morning when I found out. So they have another podcast. What's it called? Two Bigs.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hosted by Willie Colon and Black Brandon is the other guy's name.
Oh, did
Hang
you,
on.
you look
Let
up
me
Willie
take a guess. Black
I did.
Brandon
I actually
is called that because of his race,
correct.
and the other guy is not black.
Yeah.
No,
so-
Willie Colon is black.
So they're both black, but one of them is just they wanted to specify.
Yeah, that's just his handle.
Okay. Proceed.
We're gonna start calling me. I'm gonna start going by half black first.
Half black Elijah.
Half black Elijah.
Love it.
So anyway, recently they came out with a I don't know what is this? Is it a special? Is it a podcast series? Is it an episode?
It's a podcast, and this was one of the episodes that they released on Wednesday night.
They rounded up a bunch of minority employees from Barstool, and they wanted to get them all in one room and talk about the recent controversy with the founder of Barstool, which, if you don't know what that is, a little while ago, maybe like a week ago, give or take, the founder of Barstool was getting blown up on Twitter because he had made some racist jokes in the past. I'm convinced everyone that's made it in being a celebrity has made some sort of racist remark in the past. I think it's just how they got there. And
is that all I have to do?
I don't think it's how they got there, but I think that's the environment that they were in. You know,
I think you missed your shot, Tristan. I think what the important thing was, you had to do something racist in like 2008, and they became famous. You know, it's too late now. Now, if you do something racist, you just get fucked up. But you know, back then it was it was the key. So anyway, he did something racist, and he got blown up for it, and he didn't apologize for it. In fact, he went the complete opposite direction, and he fought for his ability to not apologize for it. He says that it was funny content. It's still funny today. He said that it's you shouldn't have to apologize for evolving, which to a degree I understand. Like, people make mistakes, you learn, you get over it. But I don't know, the level of arrogance about this dude. If it was in any other way, I mean, Mike Tyson had a really amazing podcast episode. I'm pretty sure he has his own podcast. He had his own special, or his own segment, where he talked about the things that he's done in his life, and he talks about how he's already made those reparations with the people he's wronged. He's already done the things that he feels necessary to redeem himself, and then he apologizes, but then he won't apologize again. You know, I think that's how you do it. You apologize once, you mean it, you're sincere about it. You don't do it again. You don't grovel. You don't beg for forgiveness, but you apologize. You recognize you did something wrong. You move on. But this douchebag decides to not only not apologize to it, but stick a middle finger up straight up to anyone who says that he should. And something about that just rubbed me the wrong way. But what rubbed me the wrong way the most is what they decided to name the podcast. What was the acronym?
Big yikes.
What it was like now.
You want me to say it?
Now
I'm not gonna say it.
No.
Oh,
it was now. The acronym was now. Hang on, I got it right here. The acronym was now. It's gonna get extremely real.
And we're not gonna say
the N-word.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Spells out the N-word.
Tristan, would you like to say it?
I'll pass, Joe.
Since you say it so often. He's kidding.
Yeah, no.
I'm kidding. It is
I'll
not.
Pass.
Okay, go on.
All jokes. Tristan isn't racist.
All jokes. I've never once heard him say anything racist or do anything illegal in my entire life.
That's true.
Go on.
Anyway, the fact that they decided to name this podcast the N-word is, first of all, to me, what I immediately saw of it is whoever owns this podcast, or whoever is organizing it or orchestrating it, immediately it just makes a mockery out of everyone on that podcast, whatever they're talking about. I didn't listen to it for very long, but every real story that those people are talking about, every real experience they're talking about, and even the weight of their argument in general is just kind of
right.
It's making a mockery out of that by just it's like bringing, you know, a black guy up to a podium, a stage, to talk about social injustices, but you introduce him as an N-word. It's like you can't give someone a platform to talk about change in a good way when you demean him immediately before you give him the platform.
Right.
And I highly doubt it was the podcast. What is his name? Whatever the guys are from Two Bigs. I highly doubt it was their idea to name it that. I don't think anyone from that group would decide to name it this. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was their idea. Maybe they are trying to make light of a situation and it didn't go well. Maybe they're trying to use controversy to drive,
I think it was their idea because they were also receiving a lot of heat on Twitter and clapping back at people for it. So
really,
I mean, do we know what their reasoning was behind it?
I mean, I doubt they're going to disclose that. at least right now. That'd be something that they talk about if they get kicked off or if they cancel the show or something. But I don't know. It it just blows my mind because it's like if that, let's say it is their idea, you know, it's like why would you choose to go that route? Why would you choose to play into a racist narrative for views to talk about not being racist? That doesn't make sense to me.
Isn't it a little bit about here's my thought process. Is it possibly, could their reason be taking the word back? They use the power that the word has to draw people in and then use that platform it gives to talk about it. I haven't listened to the podcast. Is it serious? Is it a comedy one? Are they, because if it's a serious dialogue, then they're leading with something that's going to draw people in, this controversy, and then using that platform to drive a message home. It may not be a conventional method of doing things, but it does make sense.
Yeah.
I think that was the reasoning behind it, because it's such an offensive word. So they title it so it would offend other people, just like it's offensive to them. Whenever they hear
that
it.
makes sense. That makes sense to me. I guess I don't know. I guess I see it a little more serious than it's intended.
Right.
It's just
I can't imagine why.
And I guess that's fair because it's also I'm feeding into what that whole point of it was to grab attention. You know, it was to shock the audience and also pull them into, you know, hearing their message. And I guess I feed into that whether I think it's a good idea or not. But I don't know. The thought of it, that aside, the rest of Barstool Sports, the founder of Barstool Sports, I've never been a fan of. It's just the content's not for me. But seeing that as soon as I saw it, which I had to make a conscious note to do a little bit more research and not just, you know, run away with it and be like, oh, fuck these guys. But because I don't know, I want to believe that it is like what you said and they're, you know, doing it for the shock value. But the initial thought, as soon as you see it, my initial reaction was like, holy shit, these guys are fucking racist. Just because I know the content that's normally on Barstool. And again, that's probably just me making a biased opinion, but I just thought that could have been done a lot better. But I mean, hey, if that's what they're going for, and I mean it works clearly, you know, and they're actually using it to devalue, I guess, this word that brings so much pain and hate, and also use the controversy around it to spread a good message. Who am I, you know?
So I mean, it's valid. I mean, your feelings are still valid.
Like, it's a touchy subject, especially right now with everything happening. To me, that was like what we talked about a couple weeks ago with Ari Shaffir. It's like when you know it's a dark humor joke, there's a when and a where to tell that joke. You know what I'm saying? If you have the timing right, it can just be a dark humor joke and people are shocked at it and they're like, oh my god.
See, but what can be joked about and what can't be, and who decides that?
That's true. And I guess the society decides that, or culture, or whatever decides. But
I think nobody decides it.
Society decides a bunch of stupid shit anyway.
I wanted to present something in light of. So the other day, I was rewatching some David Dobrik vlogs. I was starting from square one on forward.
Sorry.
They're great. They're quality. But
wait, did you watch all of them?
He makes jokes that are about race. So, for instance, in some of his later ones, he has a friend that's black, and he will make jokes with that person who's in on the bits. Very clearly, he'll make jokes like the friend will say, you know, don't have me sit in the front seat. You know, if we get pulled over, you know, a cop, and they make it, and they laugh about it, right? So there's the whole relationship between the black community and cops.
Right.
There is those jokes a lot, okay? And that friend uses because I'm black as a punchline a lot, okay?
Sure.
That friend recently then came out and I guess condemned the use of that humor, kind of putting shame on the rest of Vlog Squad, when in my personal opinion, I was like, I mean, you kind of did the same. This is what gave you clout.
So
I think it's wrong that
real quick before you start, I just want to bring kind of like a second perspective on that.
Yeah.
So being the way I am, for people that don't know what I look like, I'm extremely white. I don't have very much pigment to me at all, but I am still mixed. My dad was black, my mom was white. So for me, looking the way that I look, I've been in several situations where people feel comfortable enough to make jokes around me that they wouldn't make jokes around, say, a darker person, a darker complexion person. And in those situations, the best way to go about it for me, at least at the age that I was back when this was a regular occurrence, was to just play along with it. Because there's a it's like a I'm not sure how you describe it specifically, but it's almost like a power stigma. You don't want to completely alienate yourself from your friends, and you want it to stay lighthearted. You know, you want the room to still have fun, and you still want to have fun with your friends. But when they make jokes that actually might offend you and actually might, hurt you a little bit deeper than a joke should, especially if it's about something that you have no control over, say your race, your sexual orientation, whatever, a lot of times the coping mechanism that people choose is to just laugh at it and to play along with it. And I'm not saying that that means the person is not at fault for playing along into it, because at some point you do have to realize that whether your reasons for playing along with a joke is justifiable or not, you are still allowing it to happen. And you can't be completely upset about something that you've allowed to happen.
Yeah.
You have to at least be, at some point you have to say, okay, well, I didn't do anything to stop it. I can't really be upset that it happened. But on the other hand, in a way, putting yourself in those person's shoes, there's a lot of things that you just would let slide because you didn't want to handle it. You didn't want to deal with it. And there's a lot of things that maybe once you get to that level, once you get to that fame level or whatever, having those jokes being made or having them being written or having them being talked about and knowing the kind of platform it's put it on, that could be kind of stressful. Like that could kind of have the power to mess with somebody's mental state. For me at least, if it's like making a stereotypical joke, but everyone's laughing at it and it's not laughing with you, it's laughing at you, if that makes sense.
No, 100%.
That's the biggest thing that I have when it comes to that, because there's a lot of people in the black community, black comedy, black entertainment or musicians or artists that have been looked at like, well, why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you standing up for this stuff? This is part of your culture. And it's like, at some point, it shouldn't be the victim's responsibility to correct the offender.
100%.
And in any case, but especially when it's about things that make you feel uncomfortable, it shouldn't necessarily be your responsibility to be like, hey, you guys probably shouldn't be making jokes about that if you're the only person in the room. But I'm also not saying that you just have to wait for other people to fix themselves. You have to at least put your foot down at some point.
And my point isn't he allowed this, he shouldn't come out now and be upset. My point is, I think instead of being upset with the people, I think everybody needs to start focusing on being upset that we allowed an environment to be created where those kind of jokes were promoted. Does that make sense?
And
now, that being said, I will always hold the opinion of, and pretty much no movement would change my mind, jokes are jokes.
Yeah.
If you don't like the joke, don't listen.
Sure.
And that being said, there are plenty of jokes that I don't like. Plenty of jokes that I won't laugh at. But I also recognize that I think a lot of people make jokes as a way to get an idea out there. And I think that by reacting positively or negatively to something, so supporting or not supporting it, kind of allows that idea to live or die. So, for instance,
I mean, I understand what you're saying. If I say a joke and none of you guys laugh, I'm probably not going to say a similar joke because I know it's not funny. But if I say a joke and you guys, crack up at it, it's going to promote that idea in my head where I want to just keep doing that, And I think that's what happened. That's what happened as a whole to a lot of people.
Yes.
Back 10 years ago, not just YouTubers, not just comedians, not just actors, but I mean, I was talking about this earlier. The whole Tropic Thunder, that movie.
Exactly.
You rewatched that movie.
Yeah.
I tried to rewatch that movie and I was like, holy fuck, I don't know if I can watch this whole thing. It's hilarious.
Exactly, but the tone has changed.
Hilarious. But the absolute offensive material, and it's just in your face. I'm like, yo, this would never fly today.
Well, the thing is, and a lot of people talk to Robert Downey Jr. about it. The whole point of that role was to be the shock value, to make you go, because Robert Downey Jr. himself, the reason people were trying to cancel at one point, and I laughed, he said during that filming, after the filming, to this day, still says, he said no to that role initially because it was blackface. He's like, I'm not comfortable at all. He talked to many fellow black actors and things like that to seek to help correct the context, because at the end of the day, the point of the role was to be so in your face, to show people the butt of the joke was, we have white actors doing blackface.
Mm-hmm.
That this is what people will go. This is what Hollywood will go to. This is what's happening.
It's so outrageous that you can't help but watch.
It's a caricature of what was going on in Hollywood, and he talks about it. And so I personally, I don't think at any point he needs to be canceled for that. I don't think at any point was Robert Downey Jr. Racist. But that's also why I say I think any joke is. I don't think you can cancel people for jokes, for what's really jokes. Now, if somebody, says something is a joke, but it isn't a joke, that's one thing entirely. But that movie, that was a comedic dialogue, a joke on the state of Hollywood. You can disagree with that, but you can't cancel him and say, you did blackface, and that is bad because there's no difference between you doing it as a racist at a Klan meeting and you doing it for the point of shining light on making fun of people and his personal was being respectful. Now, that being said, can he apologize that can he himself, feel bad for something like that perhaps in hindsight he says maybe there was more harm than good. Maybe I helped perpetuate something. That's a personal debate, and people can have that opinion. But I think everybody needs to recognize we need to stop canceling people for contributing to a negative culture in the past that existed, that was promoted. Mm-hmm. Rather, we need to recognize and promote people that are going to bring forward a better culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
people
totally.
that So for instance, David Dobrik and them making those jokes. Liza Koshy is a young black woman. Okay, she apologized because in vlogs she did a Japanese accent when they were eating Japanese food, and to me, I look at that joke and I go, I think she's just doing that voice because that has been doing voices of different races or tones. Well, it's a caricature of somebody. I think that's a type of comedy. I think if people support that, that's one thing. If people are offended, definitely apologize to those people that are offended. But she apologized and she said, I'm going to make a personal act to not do it. That's wonderful, because what she's doing there is saying, this is something that I did in the past. Having reflected now with the dialogue that we're having today, with the change in culture we're trying to make, I apologize, and I'm going to make the active decision to not incorporate that in my comedy. That's a perfect example. She's saying, I did this, I'm sorry, and I'm going to now promote a better culture, because instead of trying to be the change, I just existed, and now I'm going to be the change. I think we need to, rather than be a cancel culture, I don't think cancel culture works. I think that if you, shit on somebody, shame somebody, and ruin their career, it's going to make them more polarized. I think it's going to make them more angry. I think that giving people a path back, I think giving people the ability to change. I think allowing people to test a new environment is the way to go, because then what happens is they try it out. If people like the content, they can support it, but we have to hold them accountable. So if we don't like it, if they still continue to do wrong, we no longer support it. That person falls off. Done over, gone.
That's best example of that is the Sonic the Hedgehog live action movie. They put out, what was it, like 2 screenshots of what they were going to make Sonic the Hedgehog look like, and everyone shit on them relentlessly.
Oh
They were
yeah,
like,
it looked
fuck
horrible.
this movie. No one's ever going to see it. What'd they do? They retracted every bit of work that they ever made about this movie, fixed it, put it out the way that the fans wanted it. Everyone was happy. Whether it was a good movie or not, I won't mention that. But they at least gave what people wanted, and I think that tactic is where we're headed. Speaking of YouTubers, did you guys see Jenna Marbles is off of YouTube?
What is the deal? I heard people coming to support her. What is the deal?
So Jenna Marbles, years ago, again, this is something I think she did 10 years ago or whatever. She made a video where she pretended to be Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
She put on a pink wig. She gave herself blackface, and she did some over-exaggerated facial expressions like how Nicki Minaj does in her music videos, and she was like singing one of her songs or whatever.
Okay.
The joke wasn't that funny, regardless of the blackface. But the blackface was one of those things that probably didn't sit very well with the audience when it happened, but it still skated by. And then now with
I
this
thought I
whole
heard that it was
culture-
privated.
So I think she did private it after a while.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't think it sat very well in the moment, and I think she regretted it shortly after. I don't know how long it was up. I don't know how long it was private, or if she privated or whatever. But basically, someone on Twitter dug it up because which blows my mind. Which excuse me, which blows my mind because first of all, you should always expect that anything you put on the internet is there forever. But for people that don't, it blows my mind that it's still true. You know, like if I put a picture up and it's, you know, I'm like naked. If I put a naked picture on the internet, and 2 seconds later, I'm like, well, I shouldn't have done that. And I take it down. Somebody out there saved it. There's someone out there in the millions of people on the internet that just save shit. They save controversial shit and they're like, this will do good later in the future sometime. Because whenever she put that video on private, there was still someone who had a screen recording of it. And they put it on her Twitter and they attacked her for it. She got bullied on Twitter. I'm sure she got so many hate messages and hate mail and all this stuff. She made a video responding to it, which actually made me a little sad because she sounded extremely genuine and she apologized for it. She even, for people who didn't see it or didn't know what any of this was about, because she did take it down, she played the video. She played it like on her laptop next to her, and she played it to show everyone, this is what I did. This is wrong. I should not have done this. I tried to cover it up because I was ashamed of it immediately. I should have known it wasn't going to go away. It's something I regret I ever did, and she apologized. I feel like that was enough for me. Like, I felt like it was a good apology, but after that, she still put out this whole thing where she said she's resigning from YouTube and she's not going to like make videos or anything.
See, that's horrible.
Which it sucks, but at the end of the day, I'm also like,
if it's her personal decision, you know.
If it's her decision, maybe it's good for her too, you know, because she just went through a whole bunch of bullying and, you know, whatever on Twitter. I'm like, maybe because she's got money, dude. She's been famous as fuck on YouTube for a decade. I'm like, she's got money. She's good. So I'm like, maybe this is good for her. Maybe she can like apologize. Her fans will, you know, never leave her. She's got such a diehard fan base. And maybe she can just go enjoy her life now, which it sucks that this would be the grand finale for her and this would be the send-off, but I'm hoping some good comes out of it. But yeah, you're talking about David Dobrik, and that's what made me think about Jenna Marbles, which is, it's sad, but it's also, if you see the video, you're like, oof. Ooh.
I think that if she privated it though, like back in the day, I think she should be not celebrated, but if you
know that it's wrong when you're in the middle of a culture that celebrates comedy like that, then you should at least know that your morals are sound.
That's what I'm saying. If people are like trying to cancel her and she's like, "Nah, I decided this 8 years ago before all of you were."
Right, all of you were laughing at it. Like this is what you would get on YouTube to go find. You would search these kinds of videos.
That's my problem. Is a lot of these people are newly awoken. Let's call them. They're newly awoken people, and they are. It's so having grown up around religion, people that
Tristan knows all about
people that like become Christian later on. A lot of people say that they're all, on fire for Christ, and I feel like a lot of people were newly awoken. They were ready to, they got guns blazing for anybody who even thought of condoning somebody that may have breathed something that might possibly be considered racist. Now, obviously, she dressed up like Nicki Minaj and used blackface. I mean,
it's
come on,
dude. When you watch that video, you're like, oh God, please stop. Like it makes you sad because it's like you're watching someone that you care about, like, because she's a good person, and it's like you're watching this person completely fuck up, like not just a little fuck up, like it is a complete fuck up.
But I have a question then. I personally believe that context matters. However, I also believe that ignorance is not bliss.
Right.
What's the difference? So, for instance, she makes that video. It's tone deaf. She removes it. It's, of course, more tone deaf now because we're trying to usher in a new culture that's way less accepting of those kinds of jokes and tones. At what point are we going to... where is the defining line between this person was uneducated or ignorant and this person is being racist, or is it both?
I think that ultimately gets left up to, first of all, the people seeing it, and then second of all, the creator, right? Because I mean, PewDiePie, he fucked up and he's still streaming. He still is making millions of dollars.
Blows my mind, by the way.
It was his choice to fuck up, apologize,
right,
and then act like it never happened.
I don't know if you guys have seen the recent news with Camila Cabello.
I heard about it, but I don't know what
happened.
It's her racist Tumblr page, I think it was resurfacing.
Oh no.
And then there's numerous amount of videos of her calling Normani the N-word.
Oh God.
Like saying my N-word, things like that, when they were a part of Fifth Harmony. But no one's talking about it.
Yep.
People are still downloading her music, still streaming her.
So
no one's talking about it.
Now, was she saying it in a negative way? Like, again, to the context of ignorance or...
I think if you're saying it that frequently, the context kind of goes out the window.
But what if you grow up in a culture where... So, for instance, if she's a Latin woman, what if she grows up in an equally minority-rich environment?
The N-word being used by other minorities, I still don't condone, because just because you grew up around it, you still have to... Which... It's kind of weird because it makes me question where they grew up, because where I grew up, if you didn't look a certain way and that word, I mean, I don't.
And I guess she's putting it out there.
How I look, and it's, I don't know, but
no, yeah, and I think if you put it out on the internet, that's a different story. It'd be different if that person,
different.
Fifth Harmony grew up with you, that culture that you guys grew up in, that was okay, but like.
And it's one thing if you're sitting in like a living room with your one friend, and that one friend you have this relationship that you accepted around each other.
I tell Tristan, I say every time I hang out with Tristan, I say, Tristan, you can say the N-word in front of me. I don't mind, Yeah, 100%. And that's a joke, ladies and gentlemen, and that's a joke that never happens.
We're simultaneously trying to help destroy Tristan right now.
Let's do the bit where I love the Bible. That bit we talked about, not the bit that I constantly say the N-word. That's not a bit.
I mean,
it won't get you in trouble.
Here's the deal, Tristan. I think saying the N-word a lot and being in love with the Bible sometimes goes hand in hand. I'm not gonna say
Right.
I'm not gonna say all the time. I know.
Not all the time,
I would
but
say a
there's
majority of people that like the Bible probably don't feel that way, but the loudest of the lovers, you know.
Oh yeah.
If we had a circle chart, there would be an overlapping portion in the middle where it had.
No, it would be
saying the
definitely
loving
less people, right? So it'd be a little overlap, but that little overlap would be in a highlighter because it's just like it's there, you know.
And they would have a megaphone and a Twitter account.
Oh yeah, a Tumblr account where they.
Tumblr. Oh fuck Tumblr. Tumblr was always a shit platform.
I can't believe it was a Tumblr out of all the accounts.
Tumblr was where all the racist fucks' daughters would go to vent about their racist dad, and then they would also feed into the racist narrative by sharing stupid shit. Tumblr, I didn't like Tumblr because of.
And they all followed Camila Cabello.
Oh yeah, they did. Tumblr just gave a platform for some people who just wanted to like vent, which is cool. I support that aspect, but it also gave some people just a platform to just download all of their toxicity and just get it out.
I do also want to say this, whereas you said earlier, you made a point. You said, I mean, obviously everybody knows the internet is forever. Technically, some of these things that are resurfacing from like 6+ years ago, the concept of the internet is forever has only really been taught over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
like
which is
actually
crazy.
Because people really didn't know. I mean, like we are now in a time where maybe these things seem obvious, but back in the day they really weren't, because they may have had 100 Twitter followers that were just their friends. You literally don't know, and it's still wrong, right? But like, it's not like they were. You have a big platform. You shouldn't. For instance, Jenna Marbles.
Right.
At that time, did she have 200 subscribers? She's not going to have the same knowledge of the online space, or nearly the same thought process of, oh wow, what I'm doing can really have a weight. It can hurt people. That's more of what I'm saying. Is at that time it may have just been, I'm going to try out this comedy thing. I really didn't like it, and I felt bad about it. You know, because just because somebody has a platform now doesn't mean they had a platform back then. And a platform shouldn't change somebody's, real honest thoughts, but I don't think that they're real honest thoughts. I think it's just people being stupid and thinking that they can say or do whatever they want.
And there's people that are in both fields, there's people that are doing that. Then there's just shitty people. And the problem with cancel culture is you never get to find out what kind of person they were. You just see the act and you cut off every kind of way of figuring it out. But on the flip side, where I don't support cancel culture, but where I understand it is when there are things that happen, Crystalia, where something will happen and an overwhelming amount of evidence is released, where it's just an outrageous amount of probable cause to hate somebody. And that's where I'm like, where some of these things like Keemstar, like Crystalia, like all of these people who get canceled, and then people are like, oh, fuck cancel culture, they shouldn't have been canceled. It's like, it's kind of like a third offense type thing. After it just repeatedly over and over, you got to hear about this dude saying the N-word again. Why does he have a platform still?
Right.
Why is he still relevant? But then when you see these people who just form and they kind of convert themselves into what the people want, because they are public figures, and a lot of these people that get famous off YouTube, a lot of these people that get famous off YouTube are nothing more than kids, right? They're like 17, 18, 19-year-old kids making millions of dollars from the shit that at the time no one knew anything about. No one knew shit about YouTube and how they get paid and what they had to do. Back when all these people were getting big on vlogs and shit, 2008, 2009, 2010, no one knew what the fuck was happening. No one knew the kind of power that they had or influence they had over the youth.
Although I personally do not believe that YouTube should ever block accounts as long as they meet a certain guidelines. And I don't think
YouTube's guidelines have always been dog shit.
I just think
we're gonna get demonetized now.
I just think saying certain words is one thing, because swear words of any type should just not be allowed, right? I mean, if they want to disallow swear words, it's one thing. But we get into some points where people are calling for Facebook to be shut down because he's not doing enough for free speech. I think what's happening is exactly what should happen. If an advertiser wants to no longer, they're boycotting Facebook because I guess they're not taking the steps that they want to take to prevent fake news and to limit toxic communities. Honestly, I don't think it's the responsibility of the social media after they've created a terms of service and a guideline to police the factual evidence of what people say. I think it's the individuals. Not only is it it's not only their job, it is their right and their privilege to be able to seek out proper information.
Yep.
And let the medium speak for itself. If enough people go on Facebook and go, man, I'm not really getting reputable sources. What am I no longer going to go to get news? Facebook. So it no longer becomes a news site, and this is no longer a problem. If I'm an advertiser and I don't like that it allows, it maybe its values aren't perfectly in line with mine, whether that's politically or whether that's morally, I should have the right as a company to be like, I don't want to advertise there anymore. And you know what Facebook can do? Absolutely nothing. The same right that they have to say, we're not going to police people is the same right the advertisers have that say, okay, we don't want to be associated with you. That's totally allowed and fine. Otherwise, you get into situations like in China.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're like, our government is great. And if you say otherwise, we can literally fine and jail you. Now, obviously, it's not a 1-for-1, but it can get to that point of extremity, and this is technically a first step.
I totally agree with that. The only thing about Facebook that scares me is that there's no other social media that feeds into what the user believes and will only show them that content. Now, sure, like Instagram, Twitter, you can follow the people that you like, and TikTok, you follow the people that you like, you get a front page. That front page is based on the things that you like because it only wants to show you things that you're interested in.
Right.
But never have I seen the amount of videos on Facebook alone that are purely political and they go solely off of what that person's beliefs are. So like, say Twitter, let's say I'm a decently left-wing guy and I just like a bunch of comedy. Twitter's going to show me comedy, and it might show me a couple, things here and there about whatever. Facebook, they have their own section. You can adjust if you want left-wing or right-wing news media on your front page. You can select that on Facebook. That's an option in your privacy settings. And I've never seen a social media do that, because by doing that, you're giving these people an influx of one-sided news to the point where that's all they think is real. Same with left-wing people, where they think that.
But I think they have the right to be able to consume that media. I don't think we should start policing the.
They do, and I don't think you should police anything. I'm not saying that you should tell the people what to watch, but I also don't think that you should close people's blinders to the point where that's all they think exists.
But if they want to close their blinders, I think that those people should have those rights, because those people will die off themselves. I think that it's survival of the fittest. We literally, as dark as it sounds, Darwinism. If people want to believe the wrong thing, they will eventually die out.
You also get people that are like hanging people over in fucking, when was that? I mean, the guy that they found. Or no, it was a group. It was a group of people that had police uniforms, fake badges and shit, and they were like kidnapping black people in like stolen cars and shit. And I don't know why this piece of information was important to put out, but they put out their like Facebook posts and shit, and they're all like, not surprisingly, but they're all these like hard Southern rebel whatever propaganda assholes. And I'm not saying Facebook's the cause for that either.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be, misconstrued. I just think that there's a danger when you allow people to not see the world and where the world is going versus their circle. I think you should be able to do both. I think you should be able to have your circle say, this is what I like, these are the videos I like, these people I like.
They could definitely, I agree. They could definitely promote a way of getting more sides.
Maybe having like 2 front pages in your feed or something, or having a Facebook front page and then your news feed or something separate, where you can have your own section and be like, okay, I don't want to see any of that other shit. I want to look at this. I want to look at cat videos all day. Or you can be like, okay, let me see what's going on in the world and see see what's new.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's a danger when you have someone that's so. It's the same as like having a group of people that never move out of their home city or their town or whatever. You have these people who are just so alienated from outside culture that they don't know how to act once they get to somewhere where they have to talk to diverse groups. So I don't know, but what are we talking about? David Dobrik?
I don't know what we were talking about, but we don't have
That
time
and
to
cancel
continue.
culture.
We definitely don't have time to continue. We hit about the 45-minute mark. And Tristan, do you have a conspiracy theory to end us on?
I do.
Okay,
fuck
give it to
let's
us.
hear it.
Damn it.
Anytime.
Anytime. Okay. I mean, it's not like Elijah and I have literally done all the talking.
Well,
you know?
I had something to say about Barstool too, but if it's too late.
Let's hear it. No, let's hear it, dude.
Okay, so
I forgot we started talking about Barstool and went off on a tangent.
It's fine. So I went back and watched the videos of Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool. They're all horrible. I mean, the Colin Kaepernick one, which was one of them.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
That's one thing. The Ja Rule one is atrocious. It's just. Yeah. He's just yelling. He's just yelling the N-word constantly in that one. They're all terrible. So, Trill Withers, Tyler I Am, he is a host of a podcast for Barstool Sports. It's one of my favorite podcasts that they do, the Mixtape Show. He's an African-American man, and he has used his platform and his voice to shine a light on so many major issues, so many important major issues. He was a part of the Two Bigs episode on Wednesday night. And he's unfortunately getting thrown under the bus for things like that, which... Now, that being said, the podcast was tone deaf. The conversation they had in that episode was very tone deaf. They were just saying things like, "Oh, our boss said the N-word, it's bad." They didn't really dive in on the real issues behind all those videos with that came out of Dave Portnoy. But I just think it's unfair to throw Trill Withers under the bus for this after everything, after so many major issues he's done, so many things he spoke upon. You can go through his Twitter right now, and he's tweeted about everything with George Floyd or any other major issues that have gone on in this country. There's not a single episode of Mixtape where him and the other host aren't talking about major issues.
Right.
So it's just a tough situation all around. And I'm not trying to defend the guy just because I'm a fan of his.
Right. Is he getting thrown under the bus by the company, or is it by other people on Twitter?
By other people.
Okay. They're just attacking the first person they see.
Yeah. So like these people that just hate Barstool and ignore it until they do something controversial.
Right.
So they're the people that are ignoring everything that he's done in the past, but they're throwing him under the bus for being a part of this episode. It's just an unfair situation.
That's tough, because that's when it kind of comes down to where you just have to look yourself in the face or look yourself in the mirror, being a fan, and be like, okay, where should the anger be directed? You know, you don't want to direct your anger at somebody who, if you just dig a little deeper and do a little more work and research, he's literally been standing up for the things that go directly against this racist narrative of the company. Yeah. But that's tough. And I fall under that category. I have never really liked Barstool, so I don't watch any of their branch off podcasts. So I didn't know anything about the guy. I just knew that I didn't like Barstool as a company, so anything that has their brand on it, I just don't watch it.
Right.
Which, I mean, maybe I should be a little more open-minded when it comes to some of them, but that's tough, dude.
Yeah, it's a very unfair situation, but
Joe, let's get him on the podcast.
Never happening.
I'd love if Twill Withers got on this podcast.
Let's get him on. Do your thing.
my thing.
Yeah.
Like I just have connections.
Yep. Just get them on.
Yeah,
Nope.
Joe, we know you got. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get
Alex,
Tristan's
you told me you
sister
can
on
get
the
Alex Jones.
podcast. I can get
Oh, boy.
Elijah. I can get your mom on the podcast, Elijah.
I can get Elijah's mom on the podcast too.
Looks like we're out of time for today, folks.
Tristan, how quick is this conspiracy theory gonna be?
Oh, it's short.
Hit us with it.
All right.
Alrighty, Roo.
This conspiracy states that Ron Weasley is a time-traveling Dumbledore.
I hate you.
What?
I hate you.
I'm
It's a
just-
Harry Potter one.
I know nothing about Harry Potter, by the way.
Okay, go for it.
As soon as this one started, I was just confused and angry.
Hit me with it.
Whew. In the Harry Potter universe, Ron Weasley is typically regarded as Harry's sidekick and best mate,
He is.
a sometimes bumbling but ultimately lovable foil to the boy who lived.
Mm-hmm.
But Harry Potter fans like to make everything intertwined, exemplified by this theory: Weasley and Dumbledore, the regal headmaster of Hogwarts, as one. Basically, Weasley is a time traveler sent back to live the rest of his days as Dumbledore. The similarities are all there: tall,
Nope.
slender figures,
Nope.
long,
Nope.
pointy noses,
Nope.
noses. I said noses, noses,
Noises.
and red hair. Though Dumbledore is Though Dumbledore is famously silver-haired, flashback scenes in the book describe him as having auburn locks. I don't know anything about Dumbledore.
Let me describe the Harry Potter fandom to you real quick. They saw if he was previously described in other books as having auburn locks when he was younger, they probably just immediately were like, "Well, you know who also has it? Ron." Yeah.
Isn't that how any conspiracy starts?
I mean, except for the real ones, you know. It's just saying.
What is a real conspiracy?
John F. Kennedy was definitely. It was definitely an inside job. That's all I'll say. All right. We gotta end the podcast. Shit. Tristan, anything to exit us out on? I hate you.